Hi loves, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be my everyday makeup routine, foundation, highlight, and contour, and there'll be a lot of tips along the way, so stay tuned. So I'm starting off with my eyebrows, eyelashes, and eyeliner already done, and as you can see, I have on a color corrector because I do have some spots of hyperpigmentation and YouTube will not be checking and catching me in that sort of manner. No. I'm right here. I've started putting on concealer on top of my color corrector because I feel like that gives me a better blend than just using the orange color corrector and a foundation on top. And I usually use my hands to do this part, my fingers. I use my fingers to do a lot of things, and I'm just going over the orange spots and making it blend more with my skin tone. I'll have a list of all the products I used in this video down below in the description box, just in case the video is going a little bit too fast and you miss it. And yes, I am dancing and singing again, so enjoy that. After I've applied concealer, I move on to foundation. I use the MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NC50. Again, all the links will be in the description box. And I only apply that around the edges of my face, the places where I'm not going to be using my highlight. I do that because I'm trying to avoid piling layers and layers of makeup on top of each other because I have extremely oily skin to begin with. So this way I find that there's no extra layer that's unnecessary. Brain fart. So yeah, now I'm moving on to LA Girl Pro Concealer in orange color corrector, and I'm applying that underneath my eyes. I do that because it's supposed to correct dark circles, but I don't feel like I have dark circles really. But I've noticed that there is a difference when you apply orange concealer and then your highlight compared to just putting your highlight straight on. I learned that from I can't pronounce her name. Okay, I'm just gonna leave her YouTube down below. I think you already know who I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm using my fingers to do this step. I use my fingers for a lot of steps, and it might be a little bit harder to do one side than the other because yeah, that side that I'm showing you right there, because I have longer nails so they poke into my nose. But yeah, just make sure you blend really well. Also, I just want to note that I have not put any foundation or any product in that area, just the orange concealer. So now we're on to the good part, highlighting. I use two highlighters, and I learned that from Makeup Shayla. And I use the NARS Creamy Radiant Caramel and the LA Girl Pro Concealer in Fawn. Links down below. And I find that you really step up your game when you've used two highlighters instead of one. I highlight under my eyes, my nose, my chin, my cupid's bow, and a bit above my forehead, but not too much because I'm a part of the big forehead gang and I don't need all that attention drawn to that area. I'll be using a damp beauty blender to blend out this highlight, and be sure to dab lightly or else you might take off some of your makeup. The video is sped up so it doesn't look like I'm dabbing lightly, but I am. I blend my highlight all the way into my nose to give the appearance of a smaller nose, and I don't take my highlight too far out from my face. I try to keep blending only towards the eyebrow area and stop. If you blend any further out, you're going to give your face a wider appearance, and for us round face girls, we don't need that. Chubby cheeks, you don't need that. Be sure to blend and bring the highlight to those corners of your nose because I often miss that step, and then my highlight will look a little funky at that point. So you know what, you can learn from my mistakes now. This next step I also learned from Makeup Shayla is using a setting spray with your beauty blender to set your first layer of highlight. This way, for us oily skin girls, we're having some extra layer of protection for our highlight when the oil starts to seep and we have a mess. Moving on to my second highlight, LA Girl Pro Concealer in Fawn, and I've just re-wet my beauty blender a little bit to make it easier to move the product around. And here I just want to demonstrate how I make my highlight borders, if you call it. I don't use that triangle method that a lot of beauty gurus use because I find that doesn't work for my round face. I started curving my highlight and I realized that made a huge difference in how my highlight turned out. And there you just see me highlighting underneath where I would place my contour. When it comes to blending underneath my eye, now I have a border where I can keep inside the lines. So as you can see where I've stopped. I've stopped around my eyebrow, and don't worry about it being noticeable at the moment because we'll fix that later. By the way, if you're curious about anything I'm wearing in this video, that will all be in the description box down below. When you're blending the highlight underneath your contour, you might want to just squeeze the beauty blender a little bit just to get the line more precise. And yeah, that pimple was not there yesterday. I should have just filmed yesterday and leave it to me and my body to form a pimple the day I need to film. There's a spot that seems a little messy, a little funky there, so I'm just putting a little bit more concealer and then I'm going to blend it out some more. This next step is optional because I don't do it all the time, but you can dampen your beauty blender with the setting spray again to set the second layer of highlight. These next steps of baking and contouring go pretty quickly for me because if I bake too long, I'll have a mess on my hand. I'm using the 2 setting powders and that contour powder that you see has hit pan, and look at this brush, it's a damn mess. Ugh. Anyway, so I'm using a sponge to use my setting powder, and I'm mixing half of one and half of the other. I think the banana powder is too light for me sometimes, and then I think the buttercup powder is a little bit too yellow, so I just mix them both to get a perfect mix for me. I always use a sponge when applying any of my powders because it's supposed to be better for us with oily skin. It helps to soak up some of the oil we create throughout the day. Highlight under your cheek carefully. You want that line to be very prominent and stand out. So you need to do it very slowly compared to the mess that I made under my eyes and my nose and my forehead. So now onto the contour. I'm only going to keep baking for as long as it takes to finish my contour. So I contour around my jawline and around my chin so that I have a thinner, slimmer face. Contour around my forehead so that I can reduce the appearance and the size of that. And for my cheeks, I find that sucking in my face is the best method that works for me. And I'm using my highlight as a guide for where I should focus my contour powder on. I usually try to keep the contour really near my hairline, and there's a little bend I can see in my own cheek where I can place my contour, so I focus directly in that area. I'm whispering up, 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 up to myself because I think a lot of people don't realize that you should take your contour up instead of down. That gives the appearance of a sharper contour, and I just use a brush to wipe off my baking powder at this point. If I bake for too long, I'll have too much of a white cast on my face. The areas in which you highlight and contour will look very visible at that point, but then all you need to do is go back over it with a powder that's matching your face color, and then you won't see those areas. My camera stopped recording, but I caught it in time. I use a thin brush to contour my nose and underneath my lips. I do think I have a really thin lips for a black girl, so I do try to make them look a little bit more plump. And as for my nose, it can look really highlighted, and I need to bring back some definition. Be sure to bring your contour towards your eyebrow, and there's different ways of doing this. I just stop at the eyebrow starting point. Yeah, starting point, like the beginning, obviously. Here, I've given myself a little button nose. I learned this from the same YouTuber whose name I cannot pronounce. And yeah, I just think it's cute to give yourself a little bulb at the top. And now that pimple is really starting to annoy me. I do have a mole in that area, but it usually gets covered with all the makeup. So now I'm going to put back my mole with my eyeliner in that same spot, and no one's going to tell me any different. I'm using my NC50 face powder now to blend out all the harsh edges that you'll see on my face. I don't really have to focus too much on the highlight on my cheeks because that gets blended out when you put on your actual illuminator. I need to give my mole time to dry, so I'm not putting face powder on that section of my face yet. And I'm just showing you again that that's where your sparkle highlighter would go, your illuminator. I use a fan brush to put on my sparkles, and yes, I'm using 3 different highlighters. They'll all be down below in the description box. That second one is only like $3.99, and this one was only $1 at Shop Miss A, and it's amazing. But it's messy. I can't open it for you to show you. First highlighter, here we go. I have to use a lot of this highlighter to get it to show up on my brush, but I also just want to say when you have your borders set, it makes it easier to figure out where you need to place your highlight, because I've always struggled figuring out the right place with my chubby cheeks, and I don't really have high cheekbones, so I couldn't find it. And now with these borders, I can find it perfectly. And now I have to apologize because my camera cut out after I had already put on my highlighters and my blush. So here I'm just going to show you again, that side does need a little bit more highlight, so I'm putting on all my highlighters. I really wanted you to see the progression of each highlighter, but I'm sorry, new YouTuber struggles. So again, that was the gold, and these are the 2 blushes that I use, and I will have the links below. They were only $5. I do the blush after I've done my highlight and my contour because it goes right directly stab dab in the middle between those 2. I do put blush on the apples of my cheeks, so I smile to do that. And I put highlighter underneath my eyebrow, on my nose, on my cupid's bow, cheeks, forehead and chin, but forehead and chin just a little bit. I'm placing face powder back on the areas where I think I'm shining a little bit too bright. And that's basically the end of my makeup. Just wanted to show you how I wear my favorite MAC lipstick, Yash. It's a nudie color. I wear it with a Wet n Wild dark brown eye pencil that I usually use to fill the half of my eyebrow, the second half. And I'm just filling in my lips here. And then applying Yash on top. And lastly, set your makeup with 2 things. I use Fix Plus, and then I use the setting spray, and that's it. That's my everyday makeup routine. I don't usually wear eyelashes all the time, but that's okay. If you'd like to see how I did my hair, you can check out the video below, and my outfit details are below as well. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.